and today I am actually in Redmond, Oregon at Light Elegance headquarters with the man behind all the chemistry, Jim McConnell. Jim is an awesome and brilliant chemist, and he creates everything here at Light Elegance. And the reason why I'm sitting down with him today is to bring you guys some really concrete answers on some of the biggest questions that we're seeing out there. We've talked a lot about this stuff high level on my channel, but I wanted to sit down with an actual expert and get you guys those concrete answers for all of your burning questions. So Jim.
So Liz.
One of the biggest things that I have been asked on my channel is about the whole hybrid gel versus true gel conversation.
Right.
Okay. And so nail techs, we consider hybrids to be something that's more like nail polish. Maybe it dries a little bit in the air instead of fully curing only inside of a lamp. And I wanted to see if you could walk us through how can we identify what's a hybrid and what's a true gel, and maybe, some of the pros and cons of each.
I'd be happy to. So hybrid gels, in their definition, would be like a gelish, a shellac,
Okay.
where you use some gel and you use something that is similar to or the same as nail polish. And nail polish, typically, most people think of it as containing nitrocellulose. Mm-hmm. And that may be true in some cases, but not all nail polishes contain nitrocellulose.
Okay.
So if you want to look at the ingredients that are in a gelish type material, you might see nitrocellulose, but you also might see other names that are important to that. That could be a CAB, so cellulose acetate butyrate.
Okay.
Or a CAP, so a cellulose acetate propionate. And if you see a CAB as CAB or cellulose acetate butyrate, then you are probably looking at a hybrid type gel.
Okay.
So it has the gel resins, which would include an oligomer,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll go over some of that chemistry a little bit later, I believe.
Yep.
Or monomers, which might include HEMA, might include HPMA. So HEMA would be 2-hydroxyethyl methacrylate,
Mm-hmm.
or HPMA, 2-hydroxypropyl methacrylate.
Mm-hmm.
May also contain some other resins that could be the oligomer portions.
Okay.
Those may be starting out with bis HEMA or bis HEA,
Mm-hmm.
Followed by some other stuff.
So you've got kind of this gel component, which you'd be able to see that on a label. For example, you pick up a bottle of hybrid gel polish, you'll see those gel components.
Right.
And then you'll also see those polish components, like you just said, the CABs, the CAPs, and nitrocellulose, possibly. Okay.
Right, as well as solvent.
Okay. So solvents also play a big role in gel
They
polish
do,
as well.
because the CABs, the CAPs, and the nitrocellulose all dissolve in solvent. So you have to have that solvent to dissolve those chemical items to make the nail polish, and then that's then combined with gel resins.
Okay. So for those of you that are trying to figure out, is it a hybrid? Is it a true gel? How do I know? And obviously I have recommended certain brands to you guys on my channel, but if you are out there shopping, we wanted to be able to give you kind of those top 3 things to look for. So that's kind of what we're talking about today. Now, what are some of the pros of a hybrid gel polish in comparison to a true gel? Let's
break it down.
There's something for everybody, right? So there's people that love working with true gel products. I'm one of those nail technicians. I'm not a hybrid nail tech, but there is a time and place for hybrid products. So what would be some of the pros and cons of hybrids, for example?
A hybrid gel would be something you're more familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
As a guy, and only having brothers growing up, I did not put nail polish on my fingernails.
Big surprise.
But a lot of women, when they grow up, their whole childhood is applying reds, blues, pinks to their fingernails, so they're familiar with that application technique.
Yeah, I think I was 3 the first time.
Yeah, so it goes way back for you. So when you apply the gel hybrid systems, there's an evaporation component.
Just like nail polish.
Just like nail polish. So when you're brushing it on, maybe you're losing 30, 40, 50, 60% solvent. And as you're losing it, it's starting to thicken up.
Right.
So it's not running into your cuticle, it's not running into your sidewall, it's not all over your skin.
So it's a little bit easier to control.
It's more familiar to control.
Okay.
So that would make it easy for some people, but for someone like me, who never really had any experience with nail polish, it would be very unfamiliar and very hard to control.
Yeah, and I find that myself as well, which is when I try to go back to a hybrid gel polish, I forget about that slight drying factor, and so I find myself trying to go over an area and it's sticking and it's dragging and it's pulling. So for those of you that are, more comfortable with a nail polish type product, maybe gel polish is something that you want to investigate. But the thing I really love about true gel products is the fact that you can use them for so many different things, right? I mean, you can add strength to nail, you can add a smoothing factor, you can add some structure. They last longer, and you're also able to mess around on the nail a little bit more without having to worry about the drying.
So for people who aren't familiar and practiced at applying nail polish, more 100% gel type system would be a great way to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
The other thing is that with the hybrid systems, because you have a soluble component to it that is dissolved in that ethyl acetate, when you want to remove it, you have to attack that resin that's included into that gel polish.
Okay.
So in the case of, say, shellac or gelish, to name two of the larger ones, they have that resin component in there that's dissolved. So if you want to remove it, you can go ahead and soak it with acetone. The acetone attacks the nitrocellulose, the cap, or the cap that happens to be in there.
And it does it pretty quickly.
It does it very quickly. So how fast can you remove nail polish? Really fast.
Really fast.
So in those cases, you can remove the gel polish quite quickly.
Right.
So it has a faster soak-off time.
Yeah.
If it's a 100% gel or a true gel, as you call it, oftentimes we're waiting for that resin system not to dissolve in the acetone. We're waiting for it to be attacked and to break it down.
Right.
So it's a chemical breakdown of that resin, and when you're waiting for that to occur, sometimes it can take a little bit longer. We're looking at 10, 15 minutes. Some of the ones that have more cross-link density for that higher, more durable color coat can take 15, 20, 25 minutes.
Yeah. And you guys know that I have talked about overlays on my channel a lot, and so that's one of the other reasons why I don't use a lot of hybrid products, is because I'm not able to create overlays. Usually the hybrid products, in my experience, are not meant to last longer than a week or 2 weeks because they do have that nail polish component, and because they do remove so easily. When you're working with true gels, you're able to go the 4 to 5 week refill time. You're able to create overlays. You're not having to soak off all the time, and you're not you don't have that potential for creating damage to the nail every time you're removing, re-prepping, etc. So I'm a big advocate of overlays, and that's also one of the reasons why I like true gel products, is because it allows me to create that one protective layer, maintain that on the natural nail, and then I'm just changing the color on top.
So what you're talking about is you put down that base coat. That base coat is a clear material.
Yep.
And then that you can shape, you can file, you can control that. And then the color coat just winds up being a thin application of color.
Yeah, absolutely.
The advantage to a 100% gel system is that you have all of that you can't do with a hybrid.
Right.
Because the hybrid contains the the caps, and the nitrocellulose. When it contains those chemicals are actually called thermoplastics. Naturally born thermoplastics or man-created thermoplastics. But the thermoplastic, what that will do is, as you file on it, the heat from the filing process warms up the thermoplastic and turns it to almost like a hot melt glue.
Oh, wow, okay.
And that hot melt glue thermoplastic, when it's been warmed up, penetrates and gets stuck into that file.
So that's kind of what happens. A lot of you guys have probably experienced this, where you go to take a sanding band or maybe a diamond bit on your e-file. You're trying to file off more of a hybrid type product, and it just gums up all inside of your bit, right?
Yeah. And then you got to soak it in acetone.
Yep, to get it all out, or throw away the sanding band.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Very cool. So now you guys know the reason as to why your bits get gummed up when you try and file those hybrid products.
Hybrids, but if you have a 100% gel, like a true gel,
yeah, it just shaves right off.
It just comes right off like every other gel does.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Very
but
cool.
the difference between like a 100% gel product nail polish that goes on and a hard gel polish that goes on is that the resins that are used in that 100% gel polish can be attacked by acetone, so there's less cross-link density.
Yeah, you can break down the bonds. And
usually
everything.
softer, so the longer molecular weight, difunctional, monofunctional resins that get in there, so it can break it down faster.
Awesome.
Where the hard gels have more cross-link density, a little shorter molecules, and better chemical resistance.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
they'll last longer on that nail.
Yeah, and that's something that's often very confusing to nail techs and even DIYers that are just learning about nails and maybe haven't gotten into nail school. The difference between not only true gel and hybrids, but the fact that within the true gel category, you also have hard gels and you have what some
Soft
people
gels.
call soft or soak-off gels. And so there's a ton of terms out there, builder gel, all of those things. And so I've gone over this before as well in my kind of hard gel versus soak-off gel video, but
love
that
that
is
video, by the
something
way.
that is something that can be very confusing, is that within these categories, there's also different properties in the gel. So can you soak it off with acetone or can't you, right?
Right.
And it just depends on what kind of service that you're trying to create. So the idea is that we're able to basically create different options for nail technicians and different options for clients depending on how long they want their nails to last, how natural they want their nails to look, how easy they want the stuff to come off, or do they want something that's longer lasting, more durable? Are we creating, artificial length? So that's kind of where all of these different things come into play.
Right. So if we were to summation of all of that information right there, summarizing would be the hybrids are easier to apply for people who are more familiar with nail polish.
Yep. Which was kind of the whole idea when they came out with gel polish, right? It's
It
easy
makes it
for
much
nail
more
polish.
popular.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the 100% gels can be soaked off or they can be filed off.
Yep.
But if you're soaking them off, sometimes soaking can take longer than actually filing it.
Absolutely.
Especially if you're familiar with an e-file.
Absolutely.
So there are advantages and disadvantages. And so as a nail technician, as a professional, it's up to you to figure out what you want and how you want to work it to make sure that you're the most successful you can be.
Completely. I completely agree. It's just about determining your personal style, what kind of business you're going to be, what kind of services you're going to offer, and then you match those services that you want to offer with a product line that supports that ability. So that's kind of the whole idea behind all of these different variations that are in the market.
One thing I want to bring up real quick before we venture off into any other area is that if you are taking product, you put it all on the nail, and every 2 to 3 weeks you soak it all back off again and reapply all that material back on that nail, it's more expensive.
Yes.
Than just removing just the top coat and the color coat, getting down to a base coat, and then reapplying color, reapplying top coat.
Completely.
So
more time, more product. And also you have that potential of creating damage every time you do that, because we all know we get impatient. We don't want to wait the full time for stuff to actually come off. We start scraping, we start tugging, we start filing, and then you've got to re-prep that nail all over again. And pretty soon you've got paper thin nails that people blame the gel instead of the actual process of removal and reapplication.
Precisely.
Yep.
Yeah.
Totally agree. And that's exactly why I talk about overlays all the time. I'm a big advocate of overlays, so I hope you guys can see
Me too.
why we're doing that.
And the other thing is, I'm not a big advocate of soaking products, your fingers, in acetone.
I agree.
And the reason why is because the acetone removes the oil from the fingernail and the skin surrounding the fingernail.
Very drying.
And when you take all that oil out, the skin is not necessarily a chemical barrier. It is just it's just a substrate for the oils to stay in.
Yep.
The oils are actually the chemical barrier.
Yep.
And other than that, skin is just a membrane. So things can pass through it and get into your bloodstream. So if you're soaking your finger in acetone, you're removing the oil, which makes your skin more brittle. It also makes your fingernail more brittle.
Yep.
And then it also removes that chemical barrier that exists to protect your body from the influences around it.
Yeah. And if you guys also remember, I did a video about the actual nail plate and how if you look at it really close up, it almost looks kind of like spongy, where it's got some, I don't know, some different pits and layers and layers of material. And so I also like talking about that as well, because same thing with skin, right? We're talking about at a very, very kind of microscopic level, if I want to talk about it that way, is that you do have that kind of sponginess where now you're kind of opening yourself up to absorbing things. So if you do, put on a gel that maybe is high in some allergens, if you're doing a bunch of acetone exposure, that would probably also create more of a situation where your body's more apt to absorb those things.
To increase propensity for allergic reactions.
Very nicely said, Jim.
I like big words.
Yeah.
I like small words
and
too.
succinct, very highly educated chemistry talk, which I really like. So, okay, so we can look at the label, which we're definitely going to, Jimmy's back here, our cameraman, and he's going to put some really awesome overlays on this video as well to make sure that all the words we're talking about, you guys are able to see them on camera, because I know sometimes some of the chemical names are just crazy.
Blech.
So we can look at the label, we can see these things like caps, cabs, nitrocellulose in these hybrid products when we're looking at them. But are there ways we could identify if this is a hybrid without even knowing anything about the ingredients?
Yes, there are. So if you don't know anything about the ingredients, but if you want to open up a bottle and smell it, if it has solvent in there, there is the chance that it is a hybrid system.
Okay.
So if I open up, well, let's use this. This is like a bonding system. But if I open up this product and I smell it,
it's got a lot of solvents in it,
oh,
right?
it does. It's just, yeah. See,
Yeah.
that smells like nail polish.
It almost smells like nail polish remover is what it smells like. It's got that really, really kind of bitter, chemically nail polish smell.
Kind of bittersweet.
Bittersweet, but definitely that big waft of like, whoa, someone's been using nail polish or nail remover in here. That's exactly what that smells like.
Yeah. So in those cases, chances are it's going to have a nitrocellulose, a cab, or a cap in there.
Okay.
Because you have to have that solvent to dissolve those components that make the system then be able to be removed by soaking in acetone.
Yep. And that's also the component that makes it dry upon air exposure.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're brushing that on, you can feel it going on. You can feel it getting a little thicker. It's not going to run off to the sidewalls because it's already thickened up quite a bit.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the things I also usually bring up is, put a little drop on a palette and put the palette in your drawer, right? Because there's no UV light inside of a dark drawer, but there is air. So if that little dot of product gets thicker over time without you actually exposing it to any UV light, that's also a really great indicator, hopefully, Jim will confirm, that you're also dealing with more of a hybrid product.
Right. Precisely.
Okay, cool.
So, and you don't necessarily only have to rely on the label that might be on the bottle. So you should also ask for an SDS sheet. So an SDS sheet is safety data sheet, and we can go over some of that as well.
Yeah.
Where you can identify on the safety data sheet exactly what the raw materials are.
Okay, cool.
For our products, and this is just one here, and there's an ingredient list on the back. We have a lot of ingredients that go into it, and the bottle is only so large.
Yeah.
So the print gets smaller and smaller and smaller as regulations increase, and we have to list every ingredient that goes into it. So I can't read that. Even if I put my glasses on, I can't read it. Sometimes if I want to figure out what the ingredients are, I literally use my phone, take a picture of it, and zoom in,
Yeah.
and then I can see what's in there. If you ask for the SDS sheet, safety data sheet, then you can go ahead, it should list everything that's also listed on the bottle.
Yes.
And you can look at that list of ingredients in a much larger format and be able to determine what's actually in there and what's not in there.
Right. And also the percentages of how much stuff is in there as well.
Percentage is a percentage range.
Percentage range, cool.
Yeah. It's supposed to be listed greatest percentage at the top to least percentage at the bottom. Sometimes you also might say may contain or plus or minus.
Okay.
So if it says plus or minus, those are usually the pigments.
Okay.
So it may contain the blue, it may contain the red, it may contain the yellow, it may not.
Okay.
That's plus or minus. So and on the SDS, it should say may contain and list the pigments there.
Now, on bottles as well, are the ingredients supposed to be listed in largest amount to smallest amount?
Right. Greatest concentration to less concentration.
Okay, great. Yeah, and I know that's really confusing. I mean, some of the chemical names, like I've said, are really long words that I think only a chemist could probably pronounce. Sometimes they're also abbreviated too, and sometimes it changes. Sometimes some bottles say this, some bottles say that. And we were talking a little bit earlier about how it's almost like when you go shop for groceries. You look at the ingredient list on a box of cereal, and sugar isn't listed as sugar, it's listed as something really weird, right? So it's kind of confusing to learn these things in the beginning, but once you get a handle on what those things are, it does become a little bit more familiar, and you're able to easily identify things. And long story short, if you're not able to figure out the ingredient list, you can still use some of those things like smell, does it air dry over time, all of those different attributes to see if this is an actual hybrid product or if it's a true gel.
Yep.
Yeah.
The other thing that's also good to know, and that you guys should know, is that if you get the SDS sheet, it should say that name on the SDS sheet, but it'll also list a CAS number. So a CAS number is a chemical abstract service number. Not all, but most chemicals that are used in the world have to have a CAS number.
Okay.
And that CAS number is something that you can type into a search engine, and it should be able to pull up what that chemical really is.
Okay.
For example, today, earlier, when you and I were talking, right,
Yep.
there was a CAS number that's listed on an SDS sheet for a product. That CAS number didn't match the actual name of the chemical that was on the bottle or on the SDS sheet.
It was very confusing to figure out what it was just off of the SDS.
Right,
Yeah.
but if you look up just the CAS number, it comes up as HEMA.
Yep.
Even though on the SDS sheet and the ingredient list on that bottle, HEMA wasn't listed anywhere.
Yep. Yep. So sometimes you do have to do a little bit of that reconnaissance to figure out what's going on. But at the end of the day, Jim and I were also talking about, and this is why I like to work with specific companies that really take accountability for their products. I mean, Jim is the guy who creates all of the wonderful products here at Light Elegance, and that's really important to me as not only a user but also as a distributor, is because I want to know that I can trust the person who's making the products. And if I do have these types of questions or I'm not able to figure it out on my own, I can always send an email into a company like Light Elegance, and Angela or Chelsea downstairs will get the information that I need toot sweet, and it's really nice. So that is also something you guys need to consider, is when you're shopping for products, not only are you looking at the ingredients, trying to figure out if something's a hybrid or a true gel or what's going to work best for you, but also take into consideration the culture of the company that you're going to be working with. You know, this is something that you're kind of creating a relationship between your business and the product line that supports your business. So it's really important also to take into consideration that relationship, and do you trust the company that you're buying from? I always like that, because if I do have a question, I can send you an email, hey Jim, what is this? And you answer me right away, which is really, really nice.
Gladly.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because our philosophy is the more you know, the more professional you are, the better you can do your job, the more money you can make.
Yep, and you guys know that's my philosophy as well.
It's important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going to be talking about HEMA here in our next video. I know you guys have burning questions about that as well, but I really wanted to just go over kind of those top 3 things that you're going to look for. So just to recap real quick, to make sure people have this before we tune out, is you guys are able to look for ingredients like nitrocellulose.
Nitrocellulose.
We've got caps.
Cab.
Oh, cab.
Sorry, carboxyacetate butyrate.
Okay, and we've got
Caps. So carboxyacetate propionate.
Okay. And you guys also are able to identify things off of like general smell. So
Yep, solvents.
we talked about solvent content. If it smells, I always say if it smells like nail polish, it probably is more like nail polish than it is like a gel. And that rule has served me well. So you guys can do a little bit of, I wouldn't stick your nose right up in there and start, huffing your products,
Yeah,
but
you might get high
just
and
get a
fall
little,
over.
get a little bit of a waft on your product. I always like to smell things right away, get kind of a familiarization with what's in there, and does it smell like something else I know? But if it smells like nail polish, it probably is very close to nail polish.
Or, just to make sure there's a distinction, some things smell like nail polish, but it's a bonding product.
Ah, okay.
So in this case, this is a bonding product. It has the solvent in there so that you only use the amount of resin that remains
And that's where you get
as the proper amount.
that stickiness.
Yeah, same thing with our tack.
Okay, cool.
So our tack has some acetone in there.
Yep.
That acetone will help reduce the viscosity of the overall system, increase its performance,
Yep.
decrease the amount of that layer of bonding resin that's on there, and then you're better off.
And give you the right
Yeah.
amount. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and most of this kind of hybrid thing, we talk about more so for like the color gels, right? That's usually where we find this hybrid true gel comparison, is when we're talking about a bottled color or a potted color. How do we know what the heck this is?
Yeah.
So absolutely. And then also you guys can try the dry test as well. Put a little, swatch on a nail form or on a palette or on a tile, stick it in your drawer, leave it for a few hours and see, does it get stickier? Does it get gummier just sitting out in the air in the dark drawer? Or does it stay practically the same? And that's also, kind of one of those physical indicators, I guess you could say.
I love tests like that.
Me
Love
too.
'em.
Me
Yeah.
too.
Because it gives you more information.
Yeah.
The more information you have as a nail technician, the better you can do.
Yeah, and if you guys remember my video about cataloging your gels and all the characteristics of your products, that's a great thing to add to your spreadsheets, is write off, hey, this is a hybrid, this dries, this, because there's also things that you might use that for. There's nail art applications, you might want a more hybrid product that's stickier, that's tackier. Maybe you're gonna put foil on it, maybe you want something that's really grippy. So as you get more advanced in your career, there are going to be those situations where you do reach for that more hybrid product, or you do reach for that more true gel product, or maybe you decide, I'm a true gel girl or I'm a hybrid girl, so.
Or boy.
Or boy,
Or
that's
boy.
true.
Yep.
Sorry, Jim.
There are a couple of men out there doing nails.
Actually, there's more than a couple. There's some awesome boy nail techs out there. So
There
yeah.
are. Yep.
All right, cool. Well, thanks so much, guys. We just wanted to give you these pointers for the hybrid versus true gel conversation, and we will be in touch again soon. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you. Thanks, Liz.